Encyclical Letter, Dilexit Nos of the Holy Father Francis. On the Human and Divine Love of the Heart of Jesus Christ. Part 2 of the Chapter 1. To listen to the first part, check the link on the screen or on the description, and don't just pass by, like the videos. Send us a feedback message in the comment and subscribe to help boost the algorithm and make it reach a wider audience. Thanks in anticipation. The heart unites the fragments. At the same time, the heart makes all authentic bonding possible, since a relationship not shaped by the heart is incapable of overcoming the fragmentation caused by individualism. Two monads may approach one another, but they will never truly connect. A society dominated by narcissism and self-centeredness will increasingly become heartless. This will lead in turn to the loss of desire, since as other persons disappear from the horizon, we find ourselves trapped within walls of our own making, no longer capable of healthy relationships. As a result, we also become incapable of openness to God. As Heidegger puts it, to be open to the divine, we need to build a guest house. We see then that in the heart of each person, there is a mysterious connection between self-knowledge and openness to others, between the encounter with one's personal uniqueness and the willingness to give oneself to others. We become ourselves only to the extent that we acquire the ability to acknowledge others, while only those who can acknowledge and accept themselves are then able to encounter others. The heart is also capable of unifying and harmonizing our personal history, which may seem hopelessly fragmented, yet is the place where everything can make sense. The Gospel tells us this in speaking of Our Lady, who saw things with the heart. She was able to dialogue with the things she experienced by pondering them in her heart, treasuring their memory and viewing them in a greater perspective. The best expression of how the heart thinks is found in the two passages in St. Luke's Gospel that speak to us of how Mary treasured, sinatere, all these things and pondered, symbalusa them in her heart. Luke 2 verses 19 and 51. The Greek verb symbalein, ponder, evokes the image of putting two things together, symbols, in one's mind and reflecting on them in a dialogue with oneself. In Luke 2:51, the verb used is dietere, which has the sense of keep. What Mary kept was not only her memory of what she had seen and heard, but also those aspects of it that she did not yet understand. These nonetheless remain present and alive in her memory, waiting to be put together in her heart. In this age of artificial intelligence, we cannot forget that poetry and love are necessary to save our humanity. No algorithm will ever be able to capture, for example, the nostalgia that all of us feel, whatever our age and wherever we live, when we recall how we first used a fork to seal the edges of the pies that we helped our mothers or grandmothers to make at home. It was a moment of culinary apprenticeship, somewhere between child play and adulthood, when we first felt responsible for working and helping one another. Along with the fork, I could also mention thousands of other little things that are a precious part of everyone's life. A smile we elicited by telling a joke, a picture we sketched in the light of a window, the first game of soccer we played with a rag ball, the worms we collected in a shoebox, a flower we pressed in the pages of a book, our concern for a fledgling bird fallen from its nest, a wish we made in plucking a daisy. All these little things, ordinary in themselves yet extraordinary for us, can never be captured by algorithms. The fork, the joke, the window, the ball, the shoebox, the book, the bird, the flower. All of these live on as precious memories kept deep in our heart. This profound core, present in every man and woman, is not that of the soul, but of the entire person in his or her unique psychosomatic identity. Everything finds its unity in the heart, which can be the dwelling place of love in all its spiritual, psychic, and even physical dimensions. In a word, if love reigns in our heart, we become in a complete and luminous way the persons we are meant to be, for every human being is created above all else for love. In the deepest fiber of our being, we were made to love and to be loved. For this reason, when we witness the outbreak of new wars, with the complicity, tolerance, or indifference of other countries, or petty power struggles over partisan interests, we may be tempted to conclude that our world is losing its heart. We need only to see and listen to the elderly women from both sides, who are at the mercy of these devastating conflicts. It is heartbreaking to see them mourning for their murdered grandchildren, or longing to die themselves after losing the homes where they spent their entire lives. Those women who were often pillars of strength and resilience amid life's difficulties and hardships, now at the end of their days, are experiencing, in place of a well-earned rest, only anguish, fear, and outrage. Casting the blame on others does not resolve these shameful and tragic situations. To see these elderly women weep and not feel that this is something intolerable is a sign of a world that has grown heartless. Whenever a person thinks, questions, and reflects on his or her true identity, strives to understand the deeper questions of life and to seek God, or experiences the thrill of catching a glimpse of truth, it leads to the realization that our fulfillment as human beings is found in love. In loving, we sense that we come to know the purpose and goal of our existence in this world. Everything comes together in a state of coherence and harmony. It follows that in contemplating the meaning of our lives, perhaps the most decisive question we can ask is, do I have a heart? All that we have said has implications for the spiritual life. For example, the theology underlying the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius Loyola is based on affection, affectus. The structure of the exercises assumes a firm and heartfelt desire to rearrange one's life, a desire that in turn provides the strength and the wherewithal to achieve that goal. The rules and the compositions of place that Ignatius furnishes are in the service of something much more important, namely the mystery of the human heart. Michel de Certeau shows how the movements, of which Ignatius speaks, are the inbreaking of God's desire and the desire of our own heart amid the orderly progression of the meditations. Something unexpected and hitherto unknown starts to speak in our heart, breaking through our superficial knowledge and calling it into question. This is the start of a new process of setting our life in order, beginning with the heart. It is not about intellectual concepts that need to be put into practice in our daily lives, as if affectivity and practice were merely the effects of and dependent upon the data of knowledge. Where the thinking of the philosopher halts, there the heart of the believer presses on in love and adoration, in pleading for forgiveness, and in willingness to serve in whatever place the Lord allows us to choose in order to follow in his footsteps. At that point, we realize that in God's eyes, we are a thou, and for that very reason, we can be an I. Indeed, only the Lord offers to treat each one of us as a thou, always and forever. Accepting his friendship is a matter of the heart. It is what constitutes us as persons in the fullest sense of that word. Saint Bonaventure tells us that in the end, we should not pray for light, but for raging fire. He teaches that faith is in the intellect in such a way as to provoke affection. In this sense, for example, the knowledge that Christ died for us does not remain knowledge, but necessarily becomes affection, love. Along the same lines, St. John Henry Newman took as his motto the phrase cor ad cor loquitur, since beyond all our thoughts and ideas, the Lord saves us by speaking to our hearts from his sacred heart. This realization led him, the distinguished intellectual, to recognize that his deepest encounter with himself and with the Lord came not from his reading or reflection, but from his prayerful dialogue, heart to heart, with Christ alive and present. It was in the Eucharist that Newman encountered the living heart of Jesus, capable of setting us free, giving meaning to each moment of our lives, and bestowing true peace. O most sacred, most loving heart of Jesus, thou art concealed in the Holy Eucharist, and thou beatest for us still. I worship thee then with all my best love and awe, with my fervent affection, with my most subdued, most resolved will. O my God, when thou dost condescend to suffer me to receive thee, to eat and drink thee, and thou for a while takest up thy abode within me, O make my heart beat with thy heart. Purify it of all that is earthly, all that is proud and sensual, all that is hard and cruel, of all perversity, of all disorder, of all deadness. So fill it with thee that neither the events of the day nor the circumstances of the time may have power to ruffle it, but that in thy love and thy fear it may have peace. Before the heart of Jesus, living and present, our mind, enlightened by the Spirit, grows in the understanding of his words, and our will is moved to put them into practice. This could easily remain on the level of a kind of self-reliant moralism. Hearing and tasting the Lord, and paying him due honor, however, is a matter of the heart. Only the heart is capable of setting our other powers and passions and our entire person in a stance of reverence and loving obedience before the Lord. The world can change beginning with the heart. It is only by starting from the heart that our communities will succeed in uniting and reconciling differing minds and wills, so that the Spirit can guide us in unity as brothers and sisters. Reconciliation and peace are also born of the heart. The heart of Christ is ecstasy, openness, gift, and encounter. In that heart, we learn to relate to one another in wholesome and happy ways, and to build up in this world God's kingdom of love and justice. Our hearts united with the heart of Christ are capable of working this social miracle. Taking the heart seriously, then, has consequences for society as a whole. The Second Vatican Council teaches that every one of us needs a change of heart. We must set our gaze on the whole world and look to those tasks we can all perform together in order to bring about the betterment of our race. For the imbalances affecting the world today are in fact a symptom of a deeper imbalance rooted in the human heart. In pondering the tragedies afflicting our world, the Council urges us to return to the heart. It explains that human beings, by their interior life, transcend the entire material universe. They experience this deep interiority when they enter into their own heart, where God, who probes the heart, awaits them, and where they decide their own destiny in the sight of God. This in no way implies an undue reliance on our own abilities. Let us never forget that our hearts are not self-sufficient, but frail and wounded. They possess an ontological dignity, yet at the same time must seek an ever more dignified life. The Second Vatican Council points out that the ferment of the gospel has aroused and continues to arouse in human hearts an unquenchable thirst for human dignity. Yet to live in accordance with this dignity, it is not enough to know the gospel or to carry out mechanically its demands. We need the help of God's love. Let us turn then to the heart of Christ, that core of his being, which is a blazing furnace of divine and human love, and the most sublime fulfillment to which humanity can aspire. There in that heart, we truly come at last to know ourselves, and we learn how to love. In the end, that sacred heart is the unifying principle of all reality, since Christ is the heart of the world, and the paschal mystery of his death and resurrection is the center of history, which because of him is a history of salvation. All creatures are moving forward with us and through us towards a common point of arrival, which is God in that transcendent fullness where the risen Christ embraces and illumines all things. In the presence of the heart of Christ, I once more ask the Lord to have mercy on this suffering world in which he chose to dwell as one of us. May he pour out the treasures of his light and love so that our world, which presses forward despite wars, socio-economic disparities, and uses of technology that threaten our humanity, may regain the most important and necessary thing of all, its heart.